I don't support the assumption of fraud. We've brought in thousands of new memberships to the party.
Well, do I have a story for you? If you're familiar with Screwjobs, be it in America, a lot of my audience is American, the DNC, what they did to Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in a way in 2020, or the Montreal Screwjob, what Vince McMahon did to Bret the Hitman Hart. Maybe a bit of a different topic. This is the BC Screwjob. The BC NDP are currently trying to kick out leadership candidate Anjali Appadurai, a popular human rights and climate advocate, over actions taken by an outside group, claiming that outside group had such an impact on this race that they now must disqualify her campaign. It is so blatant that even a prominent NDP MP is publicly calling it bullshit. So I'm going to break down just how insane this all is, starting with the news from Richard Zussman here of Global News in BC, saying BC NDP Leadership Chief Electoral Officer Elizabeth Cull is recommending Anjali Appadurai be disqualified from the leadership race to replace John Horgan. If the provincial council approves the recommendation tomorrow, David Eby will become BC's next premier. So you can see how high the stakes are here. What the powers within the BC NDP, who they want to see take this position. It is so clear, it is so blatant, and I'm going to break it down. So what is this accusation here? What did this campaign do? Writing here, the Appadurai campaign has been accused of offering to pay for memberships for new members. Wow, offering the campaign. The campaign has been accused of this. Interesting, because here, actually, an Appadurai supporter, a supporter offered to pay $10 for $10 NDP memberships. So the campaign is supposed to be able to control everyone that supports them. What if now I'm now a David Eby supporter? I'm going to pay you, the viewer here, $10 if you sign up to become an NDP member to support David Eby. There you go. Cut that clip out. Send that to BC NDP. Now David Eby has to be disqualified. This is so insane. So there must be more here, right? Oh, of course there is. There's more. Call details in the report. Dogwood, we'll get to more in Dogwood, used paid ads, paid phone backing, and emails to communicate with supporters in an attempt to sign up members. Okay, Dogwood. Who is this Dogwood? Dogwood is an environmental group suggesting its members could sign up as members of the NDP by September 4th to vote in the leadership contest and about whether its involvement represents a prescribed political contribution. An environmental group, an outside group that supports Appadurai because they like her platform, suggested to their members, hey, sign up for the NDP and support her. And that is somehow now on Appadurai. So the only connection they have, you can read through this piece, the only connection they have, both pieces, the only connection they have is that on August 4th, during a campaign event, Appadurai mentioned how Dogwood's gonna, help them out because it's a group that supports her. Not because they are using Dogwood, paying Dogwood to do this kind of work. No, this group just supports her, and she mentioned that. You want to see how absurd this is? On October 8th here, Richard Zussman, same reporter, writes here, the BC NDP may be forced to investigate this letter from the Steelworkers Union here in BC asking members to sign up to vote for David Eby in the leadership race, but not having to stay on as a member. So here they write, we are not asking people to sign up and stay on as NDP members. We believe electing Eby and reducing the percentage of the vote for the anti-logging candidate can push back on the green agenda. So here you have an outside group trying to sign up members saying you don't even need to stay on as an NDP member. You can, which by the way, interesting, because the other part of the accusation here against Appadurai is that this group was encouraging BC Greens to leave their party to temporarily join the BC NDP. That's what this outside group is also doing, but in support of David Eby. You don't have to stay on as an NDP member. Just jump on and vote for him. So I'm guessing he's disqualified too, right? No, of course not. So before I get to what this is really about, quickly here from Ethan Cox of Ricochet writing important context for BC NDP mess. Their CEO defines fraudulent members as those who had previously supported another party. Imagine if we ran elections that way. No, sorry, you can't vote Liberal. You voted Tory last time. He's right. Think of how insane this is. Again, I don't care that the steelworkers here were telling their members to vote for David Eby. That's their right. They can do that. So why should we, if they're not going to care about this, and I don't care about this, why should we care about what Dogwood was doing? We shouldn't. It's all a ploy. It's all a screw job to get out Appadurai because she is in support of free transit and freeze on fossil fuel extraction. This is a candidate that actually has some bold ideas, actually wants to do something. BC NDP can't have that. Got to push her out. So here's a little more on her platform and this race from CBC News.
She wants to give nurses a 25% raise, implement a full provincial safe supply program to help prevent overdose deaths, and scale up community health centers to replace urgent primary care centers.
It will require public investment. That is my whole approach. We must invest in the systems that are essential to life and well-being.
Appadurai's campaign has been active and even holding a fireside chat with UBC Professor of Climate Justice Naomi Klein. The race is heating up. The two leadership hopefuls could be facing off in the first debate on November 5th. That's if Appadurai isn't disqualified over membership issues. The NDP and Elections BC is looking into her membership signups and if some members are also members of the Green Party.
I support a respectful approaching of folks who are holding dual memberships and asking them to choose. But beyond that, I don't support the assumption of fraud. We've brought in thousands of new memberships to the party.
It's a strange position for the New Democrats, which has been on its way to coronating Eby as leader and premier.
Coronating. Yes, they have. Again, for the American audience here. Sound familiar? This is just quickly on the American comparison. Imagine if the Democratic Party had completely disqualified Bernie Sanders from even being able to compete in either primary in 2016 or 2020 because he is a sitting independent, can't be part of this race. Here they have even less to go on in terms of pushing out Appadurai, and they still have pushed her out completely out of this race. This is far worse than, what we've seen in other races or in other fights within parties, be it in Canada, in the UK, in the US. This really is just completely blatant. And I'm going to get to some reactions in a bit here. But first, more on just how different these two candidates are, because Appadurai's campaign had already released significant policy documents on climate and healthcare. In those policy plans, she proposed free transit in urban centers and a 25% raise for nurses. The party had interviewed Appadurai as part of the vetting process and has only approved David Eby as a candidate. Yet Eby has only released a platform policy on housing. So Appadurai has an actual campaign of ideas, of things she is going to do. Eby has only released one on housing. Yet he's the one that has been allowed to be in this race, the only candidate, and Appadurai pushed aside because, this outside group supports her. We're signing up new members to our party. We can't have that. Got to push them out. Meanwhile, of course, as I showed you, steelworkers doing the same thing with David Eby. Just completely insane. And to show you just how far back Appadurai's voice in this fight has been. This is from 2011, from Democracy Now! Actually, she's been on Democracy Now! A few times. But here's a clip from 2011 when she was in her early 20s discussing the climate fight.
You've given us a seat in this hall, but our interests are not on the table. What does it take to get a stake in this game? Lobbyists, corporate influence, money? You've been negotiating all my life. In that time, you've failed to meet pledges, you've missed targets, and you've broken promises.
So again, that was from 2011. You can see Appadurai has been a leading voice on climate justice for some time now, which again, goes to why the BC NDP, the leadership, are so afraid of her, because she's actually going to do something with her power, because she actually cares, because she will rock the boat. And they can't have that. Have someone have a leader who's actually going to do something with their power? No. Bring people into the party? No, definitely can't have this. Got to push her out. It is disgusting. So let me get to some reactions online. Starting with Appadurai herself, saying, I am blown away by the tremendous support I've received in response to the news that the BC NDP will vote on my disqualification from the leadership race. NDP members, join me to tell the party that ending the leadership race is a mistake. So I will link to this below the video, Anjali for BC.ca. You can go there, put your name down. So they are almost at their goal of 3,000 signatures here. I bet once this video is up that they will have hit it or be close to it. But if you're in Canada, put your voice down and support this. She also goes on to write, thousands saw their values reflected in my candidacy and joined the NDP with the desire to see it return to its roots. It was the politics of the campaign, not the process, personnel, or tactics that attracted the number of members that it did. I believe that my campaign has been treated unjustly from the start. I also want to be clear that we have followed the rules, acted with integrity, and tried to make this a contest of ideas. It's in all of our interest to allow the members to decide the next leader. Also here, Matthew Green, NDP MP, federal NDP MP. Here you have him calling this shit out, saying this is some bullshit right here. He is a potential for leader of the NDP in the future. So to have a voice like this come out and support Appadurai here is incredibly important. And remember this, next time there's a NDP leadership race, remember who was there standing up for democracy and who wasn't. More reactions here. Richard Zussman writing, again, reporter. The Powell River Sunshine Coast BC NDP Writing Association has released this letter calling on the provincial executive to vote to keep Anjali Appadurai in the leadership race. So you have other groups here within the NDP coming out to support her. Good to see this. Again, we'll see if this has any impact on the actual vote, which takes place at 6 p.m. Pacific time on, today, Wednesday. Avi Lewis here writing, we all know what's happening with the BC NDP. In 25 days, a 32-year-old climate champ and a bunch of climate organizers sold way more memberships than a front bench cabinet minister, a governing party, and the whole caucus. They did it legally. Avi Lewis, by the way, I've had him on the show before. He ran to get a seat as an MP in BC. He's a fantastic environmentalist. Also the husband of Naomi Klein. So many of you know, of course, Naomi Klein. But here he makes a fantastic point. Like this showcases how little the NDP have done for their actual base. That you have this one candidate able to bring in this much support so quickly shows you that the party has been starving. The actual members of the party have been starving for someone like this, for these ideas to be discussed, to be pushed forward. Again, going to how out of touch the actual leadership of the party is with people. Joel Harden here, who is an NDP MPP in Ontario and potentially a future leader of the Ontario NDP, writing, hey, BC NDP, let Appadurai run. Let the members elect their leader. Do alleged mistakes require a foreclosure of democracy? Avoid serious debate on climate action? That is the choice here. And leaders who can't win internal elections will not succeed. Naomi Klein quote tweeting that, saying Joel is right, but Appadurai isn't facing disqualification because of alleged mistakes. Every campaign makes mistakes. She's facing disqualification because if she's allowed to run, she will win. And I agree. Two more here. So these are just NDP voters, supporters. Dave here saying, if the BC NDP decided to disqualify my new membership because I joined following the rules with good intention, I'll have a really difficult time supporting them or their candidates in the future. I'm sure many new members would feel exactly the same way. So this is around the idea that the BC NDP were potentially going to just disqualify a bunch of new joiners because of the actions of an outside group that supported Appadurai. But this is going to have a huge impact on the actual membership within the party, creating a massive split that I think will damage them going into the future. Torrance here quote tweeting that last one saying this: I personally know probably a couple hundred people who rejoined or joined the NDP in August. The BC NDP is telling us we're not good enough to vote for a leader, and it's going to be a lot when they ask us to vote for them in a general. It would be in the BC NDP's best interest to actually apply the rules evenly. Keep on Appadurai because, as I showed you, David Eby, a group supporting him, did the exact same thing. Keep Appadurai on and have an actual contest of ideas and see who comes out. But it appears that they have another plan.